What's up, Sony Alpha universe? Welcome to my webinar, and today we're going to be chatting about a hybrid shooter's run and gun workflow. My name is Jonty Quenet. I'm a hybrid shooter. I do both photo and video for most of my client projects and my passion projects. I'm by trade a lifestyle and travel photographer, videographer, and filmmaker, and today I'm going to be discussing the gear that I use and how I create a seamless run and gun workflow. To see some of my work and check out some of my client jobs, you can view my website and check out some of my latest content. Alternatively, you can look at my socials, they're linked to my website. So let's get into it. It's important to have a seamless run and gun workflow and to be able to execute a job in a short space of time, especially when trying to land big clients, big jobs, and on time pressure passion projects. Not every client has the budget to extend shoots by various amounts of days, and they like to squash as much as they can into a small amount of time. So having a seamless run and gun workflow and gear that you can utilize in that run and gun workflow really makes it efficient and allows you to execute a client's vision in a short space of time. Over the years, as a photographer, videographer, and filmmaker, I've shot a vast range of different types of events. I've gone from birthdays to corporate events, to music festivals, to sports festivals, to interior work, to travel documentation, and to lifestyle work. The great thing about this is that I've been able to discover my niche, find my niche and where my true passion in photography, filmmaking, and videography lies, and that is in the lifestyle and travel route. Shooting a wide range of events has also highlighted the fact that Sony Alpha produces gear that is so versatile it can be used in any situation, no matter what the event demands or what the environment demands. And for me, that is so important in a run and gun workflow. Photography and videography began for me when I was young. I was always the guy picking up the camera on family holidays, taking photos and videos and putting together a little edit at the end of those family holidays. It wasn't until my matric year when I finally picked up an old 1962 film camera and started shooting with rolls of film. That helped me to really understand light and how light works, and it took me a few years to master that. It wasn't until I turned 18 at the end of my matric year when my parents bought me my first DSLR camera. Using that camera was a game changer. It made me realize how much I truly love photography and film. It helped me develop my passion and helped me develop that urge and that need to create and document. It was a few years went by when I launched my JLQ photography brand, and I was doing a couple of events here and there, and I realized that my gear was limiting what I was doing. So I knew I needed to upgrade. Whether I wanted to upgrade the camera or switch to a different brand, I didn't know yet, but I just knew I needed an upgrade. It was at that point in time that Sony Alpha came along, and I noticed this beautiful package, a small, compact, mirrorless camera that offered one hell of a punch. A camera that could give me insane video specs and insane photo specs for a really, really good price. And that's something that I needed at that point in time. So I got my first ever Sony camera, and that was the A7S Mark II about 3 years ago. I also bought myself my first Sony lens, which was a 24-70 f4 Sony Zeiss lens. Using this setup, I realized how limited I was all those years before. Having a camera that can do incredible video and incredible photo and switch between the modes at a click of a button really changed the game for film and photography for me. I was able to land bigger clients, shoot better jobs, and work more seamlessly in the environment that I needed to work in. Having a camera that could execute my creative vision so perfectly was all I'd needed to really break out of that shell. Now, that's not to say that good gear makes you a better photographer. That's just to say that the better the tool, the more chance you have of executing your vision. You never want to be limited by the tools you're using for your trade. And having a camera that could exceed my creative expectation was phenomenal. It wasn't until a few years after I'd bought the A7S Mark II that I upgraded to two different camera bodies, and these are the two cameras filming today: the Sony A7R Mark III and the Sony A7 III. Using the Sony Alpha system, I've been able to create incredible films, travel films, personal projects, client jobs, and a whole bunch of other projects. Having the Sony gear allowed me to really break through any limitations that I had and allowed me to create and document content that I've always been wanting to document.
I had a dream that I was weightless, floating at 7,000 feet. If I dared to look down, I would see a town built into caves and existing on imagination. 730 kilometers away was a city so saturated with life, it could not contain itself. A city that was its people.
Being a hybrid shooter, I need to have incredible gear. I need to have gear that can seamlessly make my process more efficient and gear that I can trust 100% to get the job done. So my list of gear that I use, I've got two camera bodies, my A cam and my B cam, and those are the A7R Mark III and the A7 III. My lenses, go-to lenses, are the 16-35 2.8 G Master lens, the 24-70 2.8 G Master lens. When I need a nice telephoto feel, I use my 70-200 2.8 G Master lens. And if I'm doing video, I like to shoot video on primes. So I've got the 24mm G Master 1.4 prime and the 85mm Zeiss Bardos prime. Using these lenses in this setup really helps me capture all the content that I need to capture, and it helps seamlessly transition my run and gun workflow into a beautiful product. So far I've been mentioning a run and gun shooting style a lot. Basically, the run and gun shooting style to me is capturing a massive client brief in a very short space of time. Capturing a certain amount of content, which is actually impossible to capture in the amount of time you've been given. So with that, I've been talking about needing the gear that can help seamlessly transition into that run and gun workflow. Basically, my run and gun workflow style consists of a lot of video and photo shooting at the same time. Having the Sony Alpha gear allows that versatility. Sony cameras are completely customizable, which means that I can program different buttons on the camera to give me different settings. Having that feature, I'm able to switch both cameras from photo to video mode with the click of a button, and that is amazing. So having that ability really reduces the amount of time I spend on set trying to set up a camera. Just pre-program it the night before and you're good to go the next day. Another thing that I love about the Sony gear and what suits my shooting process perfectly is the autofocus speed, the resolution, dynamic range of the cameras, and the in-body stabilization. When you're doing handheld shooting especially, the in-body stabilization allows you to get that smooth cinematic transitions, smooth cinematic shots without the need of a gimbal. Often I use a camera strap, my two hands, and I am able to track subjects perfectly and smoothly without having to worry about any shake or jitter due to that 5 or 5.5 axis image stabilization. The dynamic range of the cameras really helps in my run and gun shooting style. Often on a shoot, I'm reaching towards the end of the sunset, the light is bad, we're just missing out, we're losing the light, and I need to now recreate light in my shots. I don't have external lighting, so what do I need? I need that 15 stops of dynamic range that the Sony a7R Mark III offers. Using that, I can really pull out the shadows or bring down the highlights and retain all the detail in the image. This helps me get really clean images, which I'll show you later in this video. Another thing that I love about the Sony Alpha cameras and the Sony Alpha system is the Super 35 mode. This is so vital to my run and gun shooting style. My go-to setup is the a7R Mark III with a 24-70 lens. Having that Super 35 mode allows me to theoretically turn that 24-70 lens into a 35mm to 105mm. Just to think, in one lens, I've got 24mm all the way to 105mm at a 2.8 aperture. With the 42 megapixel sensor of the a7R Mark III, the resolution and crop sensor goes from 42 megapixels to 18 megapixels, which is, in my opinion, is more than enough for most client work. As I mentioned briefly earlier on in this video, I've done a wide range of events. Having cameras and lenses that are capable of shooting diversity, shooting a wide range of different scenes, different settings, and capturing stuff in different environments is really important to me. So I've spoken about the Sony cameras being perfect for me, but there's two things you need to ask yourself when choosing gear. The first is, does this camera better or does it limit my creative vision? You always want to have a tool that improves your creative vision, a tool that can execute your creative vision, not a tool that limits yourself. You want to be able to think out the box, you want to be able to think creatively and come up with an idea. All you need is the gear to help you execute that idea. And having gear that is versatile, high quality, and high standard, you can execute those visions. And that for me is Sony. The second thing that I think about when I look at choosing gear and what I'd recommend to you is, how does the gear feel? What does it feel like to you? Hold it in your hand, test it out. Do you like it? Do you feel comfortable with it? For me, using Sony, its compactness, traveling with the gear, shooting with the gear, moving around in client sets and tight spaces, I feel very undercover. And I feel like no one feels like I'm intruding on their space, especially at event work. The Sony Alpha gear is perfect for any type and every type of shooting. And for me, it's the most versatile brand out there. So to wrap up the section on the gear that I use and my hybrid run and gun workflow, I have specific gear that is my absolute go-to to nail any shoot that I need. Often I only need one camera and one lens. That is the a7R Mark III and the 24-70 2.8 G Master lens. The reason for those two is, as I've mentioned, theoretically with Super 35 mode, I can get a 24 to 105mm lens. That is fantastic, especially for versatile shoots where I need a lot of room for zoom and a lot of room for recomposing images. Having the 42 megapixels to work with allows me to also crop and reshape images in post-production, and that is also a fantastic thing to have. I like having a camera that produces a lot of information to work with, a camera that gives me high resolution, insane details, and retains details and has incredible dynamic range. The G Master lenses are fantastic and superb lenses to use. No matter what zoom length, no matter what range you're shooting at, no matter what focus distance you're shooting at, you're always getting consistent corner-to-corner sharpness in your images, and for me, that is fantastic. I love having that in a shoot, and I love having that look for my clients. The creamy bokeh of the G Master lenses is also another thing that I love, and it's also vitally important for any type of shooting. So there you go, that is my go-to setup, the A7R Mark III body with a 24-70 2.8 G Master lens. So over the years I've been a photographer and a videographer, and as I mentioned earlier in this video, I've been exposed to a wide range of different types of events. I've been exposed to different shooting styles and different mentors in the game as well. Being exposed to all of that has really helped me find my true calling and helped me find my niche in this game, and that is in the lifestyle and travel field. I love to document photographic and videographic content of travel and lifestyle. That is my niche, and that is where my passion lies. We're now going to dive into the computer, and I'm going to show you guys some of my best photos and video sequences from my photography career. Let's do it. So first up, let's chat about a recent shoot that I did in the Seychelles for North Island and Edgebase. This photo I captured at one of the villas on the island. To shoot this photo, I used a technique called bracket shooting, where you take 9 different photos at one stop exposure difference and you merge them in Lightroom afterwards. Once you merge these photos, you have a ton of information to work with and a lot of dynamic range to work with. And that is perfect for bringing out the shadows, bringing down the highlights, and really pumping the vibrance and the beauty of the image. Working with all that detail and that dynamic range is fantastic, especially when removing small items from the image and cleaning the image up perfectly. For this image, I really wanted to showcase the beach, the ocean, the garden, and the pool area of the villa. Capturing all of that, I used my 16-35 G Master lens with the A7 Mark III in the 9 bracket shooting mode. Next up, we have a similar image to the one before. This was more of an interior shot of the beach bar, showcasing the beach, the bar, and the openness of the area. This shot was one single photo taken with the A7 Mark III and the 16-35 G Master lens. Using that camera, I was able to really pull out the shadows of the beach bar, as you can see on the right of the picture, and really bring down the highlights on the left of the picture and expose perfectly for those. Having that dynamic range to work with made me confident enough to capture and expose perfectly for the highlights, knowing that I could bring those shadows out completely. That helped me capture this perfect image. And finally, the last one from this particular shoot that I want to show you guys boasts the dynamic range of the camera. This was a midday shot, also with the Sony A7R Mark III and the 16-35 2.8 G Master lens. Using that camera, I got handheld nice and low and shot an up angle showcasing the palm trees, the corner of the beach bar, and the secluded table outside. In this image, I had the idea of wanting to shoot the blues of the ocean, the whites of the sand, and capture the blues of the sky. However, it was extremely harsh light, which means the shadows were really harsh at midday. Having the dynamic range to work with, I was able to pull the shadows, brighten the shadows up completely, and really retain all the detail in the image. Next, what I want to show you guys is a film that I made for Tomodi Lodge based in Plettenberg Bay. The purpose of the shoot was to go there and document the hospitality, lifestyle, and beauty of the lodge to put together a signature video that could be used for marketing purposes and used to really advertise and sell the environment. One thing I love about lifestyle and interior shooting is you're creating content to sell an experience. You want to show people around the world how beautiful a location is, and it's the biggest motivation for capturing the most incredible content ever. What I also love about these types of shoots is you have full creative reign. You've got a brief that you stick to, but you can capture the content and you can have creative direction on what you want to showcase and how you want to show it. And I love having that creative freedom on a client shoot. This film in particular actually ended up getting awarded the Best South African Film in Hotels and Resorts for 2019. The award was given by the international jury of the first International Tourism Film Festival in 2019. I was very happy with this award and really appreciated the recognition that the film got. Another type of shoot that I did for Tomodi Lodge was an interior specific shoot for their main villa. Using the specific Sony gear, I was able to capture both these types of shoots using one camera set up on a gimbal with a prime lens and the other one with a zoom lens set up handheld and used on a slider. Having that combination of a gimbal and a slider really helped me capture the smooth cinematic footage that I needed to. Having the in-body stabilization of the Sony cameras also allowed me to capture beautiful cinematic handheld shots, especially when showcasing the lifestyle elements and the people in the video. Working with the Sony gear on a shoot like this gave me that extreme versatility to really execute the vision that I had for the shoots and helped a lot in documenting the place and showcasing its true beauty. The next shoot I want to highlight for you guys was a shoot I recently did for a Chicago-based travel company, 6 Degrees of Movement. This company flew me out to Bali with an awesome team to document a luxury lifestyle yoga retreat. On that shoot, I was tasked with capturing both photo and videographic content. They needed a cinematic signature video at the end of it and beautiful photos that documented the experience. The Sony gear really helped me capture this hybrid situation. This shoot was the most run and gun shoot I've ever done. I was capturing photo and video in extremely short time frames and had very little time to set up scenes. In this case, pre-production was so important. So leading up to the shoot, I did a massive amount of pre-production on the hotels and resorts that we were visiting. Let's jump into a particular photo that I did both photo and video scene for. So this photo was captured at one of the first resorts we visited. In this particular image, I had 10 minutes to capture the scene in both a photo and video discipline, which means that I had to have my pre-production on point. I knew this location because of my research and I knew exactly what I wanted to capture. Having the perfect yoga instructor and the perfect yoga model, we were able to pull off an awesome acro yoga pose, lining up the symmetry of the room perfectly and showcasing the jungle environment and the inside of the room. Having the dynamic range of the Sony cameras, I was able to really control the highlights and control the shadows in this image to try create as much of an even lighted image as possible. Next is an image that I took at sunrise with the yoga instructor that was traveling with us on the team. This shot I had planned quite far in advance and I knew the light and the time that I wanted to do this. The two of us woke up super early that morning and we got incredible, once again, video and photographic content of this particular scene. I documented the yoga instructor doing flows. I was able to put the 7200 on, get a nice telephoto feel and leave that on a tripod running while I moved around with the 24-70 on my A7R Mark III, capturing photographic and handheld footage. That allowed me to fully capture both the video and the photo elements, get a stable shot and get handheld footage, really boasting the versatility of the scene. Before I wrap this webinar up, I want to leave you guys with a couple of tips that I use to make sure I have a seamless run and gun workflow that I can utilize in client shoots and passion projects. My first point of advice is pre-production. Pre-production is so key. No matter what the complexity of a shoot is, always plan ahead. You never want to be thrown into a situation where you're chucked into the deep end and you're unprepared for a certain situation. By doing pre-production, you scout the location, you look at the location socials, you see what type of images are there, and you get to know your land. Once you know exactly what type of land there is and what type of environment there is, you can start planning what types of shots you want and start thinking about creative ideas that you can play out in those locations. The next tip I want to leave you guys with is customize your camera. Sony Alpha camera bodies offer the amazing feature of pretty much being completely customizable. You can almost customize every single button on the camera, and for me that's fantastic. Especially when you're on hybrid shoots, you want to, with the click of a button, be able to switch between a photo and a video setting. You don't want to have to dive into the menus and try set it up while you're on a pressured shoot, because that's when mistakes happen and that's when you start panicking. Don't panic yourself, just customize your camera. The next tip I want to leave you guys with falls into the realm of pre-production, and that is plan your gear in advance. Once you've done your pre-production for a shoot, know what type of shots you want and what gear you want to use to get those shots. That will help you save so much time when you're on set and you're faced with capturing that scene. You know already exactly what lens, exactly what camera you want to use, and you can just pick it up out of your bag and use it, get the shot done. You don't have to waste time thinking about it because you've already done your planning ahead. You know your gear and you know your scene. So the fourth tip I want to leave you guys with is pack what you need. Don't overpack, don't underpack, pack exactly what you need. If you're doing great pre-production, you know exactly what you want to shoot, how you want to shoot it, and with what you want to shoot it with. Having that in mind, you know exactly which lenses and which camera you need. There's no point in overpacking. The less, the better, in my opinion. I've often done complex shoots with one camera and one lens, and it's been perfect. So know that these cameras and these lenses offered by Sony are so versatile and so capable that you hardly ever need to overpack equipment. You can trust in the camera, you can trust in the lens to really execute that creative vision of yours. The final tip I want to leave you guys with today is handheld footage is king. On a run and gun setup and a run and gun shoot where there's a lot of time pressure and you don't have a lot of time to set gear up, you won't have time to set up a gimbal. You don't always need a gimbal. The beauty about the Sony Alpha cameras is they've got a 5.5 axis in-body image stabilization, which means that you can track a subject perfectly with a camera strap around your neck and holding the camera close to your body. You've got 3 points of contact and you can move cinematically and trust that the camera's in-body stabilization is going to remove all the jitters and the shakes. I promise you, handheld footage on the Sony Alpha cameras is flawless. You can capture that beautiful cinematic motion. You do not need a gimbal. So remember, for a run and gun workflow on a time pressured shoot, don't get caught up in trying to balance a gimbal if you haven't balanced it already. Just take handheld footage and use your 3 points of contact. Before I end off today, I'd just like to say thank you so much to each and every one of you for watching my webinar. I really hope that you could take away valuable knowledge and that I could pass on advice when it comes to a run and gun workflow and the gear that I use. Always remember when choosing gear, you need to find gear that works for you and works for your workflow. And you need to find a gear that you can use as a tool that does not limit your creative inspiration and your creative vision. For me, Sony Alpha is the full package. It's a versatile camera that offers everything I need. I'm able to execute every creative vision that I have using the gear that I own. So for you, you need to find the gear that can do that for you and gear that integrates perfectly into your workflow. I can 100% recommend Sony. Thank you so much for tuning in today, guys, and I hope that I could pass on valuable information. Until next time, cheers.